My name is Patricia mceachrane. I'm a family medicine physician. My certifications are in family medicine and preventive medicine. I currently practice in Ocala, Florida, and I was under a strong delusion that the weather was going to be fine here in Washington State. But let me ask this question. How many of you think that you are actively promoting this diet in your practice? Good, excellent. So you probably have some of this information and could probably share some of this on how you do it. So diet is the #1 leading risk factor for the disease and disability burden. So we know that diet and smoking are numbers 1 and 2. So it stands to reason that we would want to reduce this risk factor. So here is Dean Ornish. His statement is, I don't understand why asking people to eat a well-balanced vegetarian diet is considered drastic while it's medically conservative to cut people open and put them on cholesterol-lowering drugs for the rest of their lives. So when our patients come to us, they want us to have information on diet, or else they will turn to the internet. Well, they will turn to the internet anyway, but they want to get good information from their physicians. But when they find that their physician doesn't know anything or doesn't know very much about nutrition, they will look to other sources. And it's pointed out here that when you look at things like Wikipedia articles, 9 out of 10 have a lot of errors, okay? This is a bowl, so to speak, of what is considered healthy in the diet. And most of it represents water, because when we were babies, we were actually 70% water. But as we get older, we become more dehydrated because we don't drink as much water. The good news is that plant-based diets have higher sources of water than non-plant-based diets. So when you're eating a lot of lettuce, you're eating a lot of salad, you're getting more water. Watermelon has water, but we should also be drinking water, because I think the reason that we're telling our patients about plant-based diets is that we want them to be healthy. And there are other factors, of course, related to health, including drinking that water. And so you know that a little baby is not going to need a 20-pound child is not going to need as much water as I do. So what is the basis of calculating how much water, the basic need for water, is that we need about ½ an ounce of water for every pound of weight. So that is where you will, if you weigh 120 pounds, you should need about 60 ounces of water just as a baseline. But if you have other needs because of lots of exercise or you have a high fever, obviously you're going to need more water, but you can give your patients that information. And of course, if they weigh 250 pounds, by starting to even look at what they need for water, they will lose the weight. Yes. So in addition to water, we have our vegetables, our fruits, legumes, whole grains, our nuts and seeds, herbs and spices. And remember that vitamin B12 and D are especially important for vegans. It's not that most people who have vitamin B12 deficiencies are vegan. That's not true, but vegans are at risk of being deficient in vitamin B12. These B12 is formed by the bacteria in the soil. Most vegans will replace vitamin B12 either with sublingual or other forms of replacement. And vitamin D, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, is important for all groups of people, and you should have your patients have their vitamin D levels measured and replaced accordingly. Oils, vinegars, and sweets, as you have heard, it's really important to tell patients to get their good omega fatty acids from their chia seeds and from flax, and be very careful with the use of oils. If patients are going to use oils at all, to me they should be cold oils, not heated, because you change the structure of the oil chemically, and they do cause damage. So try to have patients reduce their oil intake. So here we're talking about, patients come in thinking that, well, vegetarian diets, vegan diets are not promoted by any group in medicine, and that's not true, because here we have a statement from in 2016 from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, indicating that an appropriately planned vegetarian diet. So it's a diet that includes all of these things that we just looked at, is low on processed foods, low on junk foods. So an appropriately planned vegetarian diet, including total vegetarian or vegan diet, those diets are healthful, they're nutritionally adequate, and they may provide health benefits in the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. So not only are they healthful in general, they're appropriate for individuals during all stages of the life cycle. So, you wouldn't say to your patient, well, you can't have your child being vegan because they won't get the nutrition that they need. No, that is not true. So they're appropriate for all stages of the life cycle, including pregnancy, as we've heard, lactation, infancy, childhood, adolescence, older adulthood, and as well for athletes. And we know that there are several athletes who have done very well on vegan diets. So this is something that you can say to your patients that the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics promote, or maybe not encourage, but state that vegan diets are appropriate for all stages of life. The myth is still out there, perhaps getting less so, but it's still out there that if you are on a plant-based or a vegan diet, that you won't be getting adequate protein. And as we have heard, that is not true. Plant-based diets have very good sources of protein. All plants have protein. And we have this tendency, we see things even with lifestyle coaches and people with promoting different kinds of fad diets. You hear, well, when you eat your protein, well, there is not, a food called a protein. Protein is a part of all plant foods, and we should not say this is a protein or this is a fat. This is a carbohydrate, and that carbohydrate discussion has gone off the wall because they say, you shouldn't be eating carbs. Well, what are vegetables if not complex carbohydrates, right? So we shouldn't be eating too many carbs. No, you should not be eating processed foods. So we have to educate our patients about the use of these types of terminology. So in spinach, you have 52% of the calories that you get from spinach is protein. I'm sorry, did I hear something? 32% cauliflower in cauliflower, and you see very good sources of protein in all of your vegetables, legumes, and grains. When I think the lady who wrote Diet for a Small Planet, she said that you needed to have a combination of foods, certain foods eaten together to get all your essential amino acids, and that is not true. So it's not needed because as long as you're eating adequate a variety of proteins over a course of a few days, you will have all the amino acids that you need. So eating, or how should we say, you don't need to combine certain foods to get all your essential amino acids. So here are some plant-based iron sources. I don't know if you can see them well, but tofu is up there, cream of wheat, and it goes down the list, spinach, tahini, etc. But one thing that is not up there that's really very good are beets. Beets are very high in iron, and they very closely mimic the hemoglobin molecule. So including beets in the diet will help with iron, and also blackstrap molasses is another source. So vegans, unless there's something else going on, have the ability to keep their iron levels up. So that's another myth. And calcium. We heard from Dr. Fritz about calcium in chronic kidney disease, and we know that the calcium has more to do with absorption than the quantity, and also the acid nature of the meat diet, the meat strong diet, and needing to use calcium as a buffer, drawing calcium from the bones, the acidic nature of these diets. So the plant-based diet is actually much better in providing absorbable calcium to our bodies. And we know all about our leafy greens, our bok choy. Who likes bok choy? Yep. Collard greens, and we have a number of foods up there. And when you compare the absorption rate to bok choy, for example, 53%, as compared to cow's milk, 32%. So you can debunk that myth about not getting enough calcium. So it has been shown that all of the studies that were included in this analysis on the use of fish oil, with people assigned at random to either take fish oil or a placebo, the studies ranged in length from 1 to nearly 5 years, and what the authors found that there were no detected reduction in any cardiovascular events such as heart attacks, sudden death, angina, heart failures, strokes, or death, no matter what dose of fish oil was used. And of course, you have to be concerned about the source of where the fish came from, and of course, mercury and all the other toxins that are stored in these fatty fish that are promoted as being good sources of omega-3 fatty acids. So the questions that we have are, will our patients accept these diets? Now, I just want to ask one person who's promoting this kind of diet in practice, do you find that your patients accept these diets? Yes. Okay, so when patients see the numbers go down, they become enthused. I think one of the things that may be problematic is, if a patient believes that the food is not going to taste good, then they are kind of concerned that they're going to give up their good tasting meat to, rabbit food. So that the ability to present to the patient recipes that are good and food that tastes good, whatever tools you have in your office to do that, whether it's your own recipes, whether it's pointing them to a source for recipes, whether you have a like-minded lifestyle coach or dietitian in your practice, patients want to know that they're going to eat food that not only is going to make them healthy, but taste good, because they want to enjoy their food. Food is a huge part of our social life. So yes, I had a women's retreat at my home in November, and it was all vegan. Some of it was raw. The lasagna is the best lasagna that I have ever tasted, and all the women wanted all the recipes when it was over. So they want the food to taste good, and this is something we can encourage our patients with. So again, most patients are willing to give this diet a try, so you don't have to be nervous about that. A low-fat vegan diet elicits greater macronutrient changes. It is comparable in adherence and acceptability, as it was found by Dr. Barnard and his group, when compared with a more conventional diabetes diet among individuals with type 2 diabetes. Again, when patients see their numbers go down, especially in these immersion programs, Whole Foods had an immersion, I don't know if they still do it, but they had a program for their employees who had medical problems. They would send them to a 1-week immersion in a plant-based diet, and the patients would see their blood pressure come down, their blood sugars come down in that 1 week, and good food. I participated in those that were given in Naples, Florida, really nice environment, but it was amazing that these people were so enthusiastic at the end of the week, and we brought their medications down during that period as well. So patients will go for it even though it may be new to them. And again, they've showed that heart patients in this particular study had 89% compliance with a plant-based diet over 4 years, and I'm sure that they were enjoying their food. That's an important component of sticking with it. It's good. Sometimes patients will see that their numbers are better, they're feeling better, and they go out with their friends and they say, oh, okay, maybe I can cheat a little bit. And then they cheat, and then they start to feel sick, and they go back on the diet. So those patients are also good testimonials, so to speak, for this diet. So enhancing patient compliance, not only explaining the efficacy, emphasizing the safety, as you've seen here tonight, prescribing a specific plant-based diet in writing on stationery. Also, patients like to see menus. What can they eat throughout the week? They like to see that kind of information. Getting support from the patient's family. Recipes, again, are always helpful. I have patients say to me, well, what do you eat for breakfast? And I tell them what I eat. And so another thing is walking the talk, because if you're walking the talk, you're able to give information to the patients and personalized information, and patients enjoy that. So we've seen Dr. Williams before. in the presentations. He was the president of the American College of Cardiology back in 2014, and he said what he does, he encourages these patients to go to the grocery store, sample different plant-based versions of many of the basic foods they eat. And another thing, if you have the opportunity, again, to work with a lifestyle coach, a dietitian who can take the patient to the grocery store on a tour, and as we say, have them shop the periphery of the store in the produce aisles and point them away from the processed foods, having them read the labels and see what is in those processed foods. If you have that kind of opportunity, that's a great tool to use. Not everybody needs to transition immediately to a vegan diet. If the sicker the patient is, the more important it is to get the lifestyle down quickly. But some patients, it may take time for them to understand everything. It's not as important for them to go rapidly into a strict vegan diet, but it may take time. They may need encouragement, and you work with the patient. Don't ever give up. When the patient is struggling with a certain concept or not being able to get off the cheese, I know that cheese is a vegetarian food, but it's a non-food when it comes to getting your cholesterol down. So anyway, when that patient is struggling because it's their favorite food, just be patient, work with them, ask them, well, what do you think you can do right now, and help them through the process. So, and allow more time before ordering lab work. It may take about 4 to 6 weeks to get that lab work done, but I tell you, when they see that change, it's a wow time, and they are enthused to continue the process. So integrating it with standard treatment is really important, and again, titrating medications so that you don't have your patients dropping down from the blood pressure being too low because they're on this new diet and they're still on their same dose of antihypertensive. So being very careful about that is important. Here are some resources, the plant-based diet medicine.com, and these slides will be up there as well, looking for quality vegan cooking classes, even conducting some cooking classes yourself along with your dietitian or lifestyle coach. They love to see the physician involved in these practical things. So making those things available, again, cookbooks, recipes, menu planning, telling them how they can save time because, I'm too busy to do this, showing them how they can, preparation will help save time later on, and checking in with them. Even if you're not able to check in with them all the time, every day or every week, have someone in your office who has an interest in this. Check in with them. Patients really appreciate that because they may have very simple questions about how they go from one step to another step, and your staff can help you answer those questions. But checking in with the patient, helping them realize that you are interested in their health. Thank you.